Testing, 1, 2, 3. You never know. Sometimes you ladies and your lotion, get all sorts of funky smells, You know what I use? Pete's working hand, that little mini rub that you put in your. That stuff is great. This time of year, ever since I hit
Good evening and welcome to the Board of Education meeting of January 21st, 2026. Please note Trustee Garcia is home sick tonight, and our student board members are not with us either. One is sick and one has midterms tomorrow. So let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Natalie, would you please reiterate our executive session motion?
Yes. We met in executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons.
Thank you. I hope everyone is having a great week. Enjoyed the snowy 3-day weekend and is staying safe and warm during this extreme cold. Out of the many Martin Luther King Jr. quotes that I saw on social media this week, one stood out to me. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. This quote resonated with me this year. I'm grateful to this board for continuing to serve the Pelham community in this way. And that includes our student board members who are not here with us tonight, but I thank both of them for their service to the community. I'm also grateful to everyone who contributes, big and small, to making our school community better. A PTA Council, PTAs, Civics, Pelham Together, and the Pelham Education Foundation, just to name a few. And every family who donates their time or resources to our schools. This past MLK Day, the district hosted active shooter training at Siwanoy School. This is something that happens annually, and the district rotates schools. This is a powerful example of the police departments in each of our villages and beyond coming together to protect our school community. I want to thank Pelham's police and fire departments for their important work. The board is happy to welcome back Trustee Will Treves to our meeting in person. We're very glad that you continue to recover well. We also want to wish our Vice President, Natalie Marrero, a very happy birthday. Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Welcome back, Will.
Yeah. And welcome back,
We
Will.
didn't clap for you.
And thank you for spending part of your birthday evening with us. Okay. A few notable business items tonight. Dr. Champ will be providing her mid-year report. We had several committee meetings last week that we will review, but one of them was bond steering. Our communication protocol for bond steering and bond work is to have the committee meeting, then provide the debrief at the following board meeting, which is tonight, and include it in our board wrap-up. So I'll do a quick bond steering update that I'm sure we'll talk more about. So at Prospect and Colonial schools, where we will be installing new HVAC systems, including air conditioning, the necessary investigative testing is complete, and designs will go to SED for permitting this week. I'm not sure if they've gone already or not yet, but they're going this week. There is not as long a wait time on permitting as in the recent past, so the architects expect to receive permits and start the bidding process in March with the intent to begin work this summer at both Colonial and Prospect. Once those filings occur, the architects will turn their attention to the middle school, high school, with site testing occurring over winter break. Jim also mentioned that alongside all of this, the $1.44 million security camera upgrade project is moving forward since the grant money from the state is now in hand. Turning to Siwanoy, we mentioned at the last board meeting that there was a sort of a false start on the geotechnical testing that is now planned to happen over winter break. There will be plenty of upcoming communication with the Village of Pelham Manor and the Siwanoy neighborhood so that there are no surprises. Otherwise, we are sort of largely status quo with Siwanoy from last time. Preliminary plans, not final plans, are with SED and SHPO. SHPO? Yes. And the district has met with the Village of Pelham Manor and their consulting engineer, with whom we are collaborating very closely, particularly around stormwater mitigation. Because there have been questions about stormwater management at Siwanoy, I just want to clarify that under the playground, there will be stormwater collection and retention using stormwater chambers, which look like cut plastic barrels. The Village of Pelham Manor is in the loop on this and is aligned with this approach. We are also continuing to assess whether hybrid construction, formerly referred to as modular construction, makes sense for the Siwanoy project. Hybrid means that some construction would happen on-site, right, such as the foundation, and some construction would happen off-site and then brought over to Siwanoy. The quality, materials, and total construction time would be the same between hybrid and stick-built. Stick-built. Hybrid, if feasible, would reduce the amount of on-site construction time and therefore reduce the local impact of construction. Designs are being developed in two versions right now, the stick-built way and the hybrid way, and that will allow the architects to decide which is the best approach, or for us to decide which is the best approach. So far, the costs look comparable, and it appears that a hybrid provider could actually deliver parts of a building to the Siwanoy location, which was one of the feasibility sort of checkpoints for whether we could use hybrid or not. Can you get the actual building over to the neighborhood? The decision point to pursue hybrid will come after this initial design phase. We hope hybrid works because while it won't reduce total construction time, it will reduce the local impact of construction. Next, we have 6 policies up for second reading. These relate to students with disabilities. These are necessary updates and will not materially change the family's experience with special education in Pelham. The remaining, God bless you. Thank you. The remaining policies are in third reading and relate to Board of Education meetings and procedures. Last meeting, we had a lively discussion about public comment, and the language has been further refined to align with the board's philosophy of supporting easy access to public comment without over-managing it, while allowing the board president to manage time and decorum when necessary to keep the process efficient and productive. I also want to congratulate Dr. Kerry Titone, who will receive tenure this evening as assistant principal of Pelham Memorial High School. In my own experience as a parent of a high schooler, she is a tremendous asset to the school in ensuring a well-structured learning environment. Congratulations to Carrie, to Dr. Titone, and we look forward to celebrating with her and other tenure recipients this spring. We also have some new business this evening. The Village of Pelham is holding a public hearing next week ahead of passing a local affordable housing law. I will ask the board whether it would like to make a public comment at that meeting regarding collaboration between the villages and the district on housing development plans. Housing development brings new families and new students to Pelham. We have seen that even studios and one-bedroom units can house families with multiple children. From our demographic study, we are already close to capacity at Colonial and the middle school, high school. The district might want to express its desire for a high level of early and frequent information sharing so the current and future boards of education can plan facilities and budgets accordingly. Additionally, the traffic study, I'm forgetting the acronym.
NIMTIC?
The NIMTIC traffic study related to the walk over to Glover has some interesting recommendations, and we should discuss who from the board can help keep that work that is primarily in the hands of the Village of Pelham and Mount Vernon moving forward. Sid. Okay.
I did raise my hand before. If people want someone to keep in contact with them, I'm happy to.
Okay, good. We can talk about it at the end of the meeting. And then, okay, that's all I had, and we can get started with 3.2. Do I have a motion to?
3.1.
Oh, I'm sorry. With 3.1, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from January 7th, 2026?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Oh, second.
Okay. Any comments or questions on the minutes?
Just
No?
want to make sure folks know, if you look at where it says, just above where it says public content on the board's dashboard, if it says minutes, view minutes, if you scroll over that with your cursor,
Mhm.
it turns into a hyperlink. You have to be logged in under your
Yeah.
Pelham Schools.
That's not working for me, but
I am
Okay.
logged in.
Okay, sorry.
that's all right.
That's the new way we've been doing that, I think, the last couple of months, because it gives Val can take minutes right during the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
keeps it right internal in there, helps, expedites the process. So,
Okay.
I think we need a vote on that still.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. None opposed, so those minutes are approved. Dr.
Okay.
Champ, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you. Just very briefly before I move over to the podium for the mid-year report, on your desks is a copy of the draft calendar for the year. I know I mentioned it last time. I'm bringing it forward, not for vote, for action tonight, but again, to really formally bring it to you for consideration. What I'd like to do is talk about it tonight and then send it out to get feedback from the community before we bring it back to the board for final adoption. It's basically the same as I shared with you last time. Very appreciative to the teachers unit as part of their collective bargaining agreement. Anytime we ask them to come back before Labor Day, they have to take a vote of the membership, and they have agreed to return prior to Labor Day. So we're very thankful because that will enable us to keep a full February break. There was not a lot of flexibility in this calendar, and had they not been willing to do that, we would have had to have an abbreviated mud week. It would have been more of a mud 5 days. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yes.
So again, what we're looking at for the 26-27 school year, I know I got a couple questions from folks that are can't believe we're already thinking about next year, and then others that already want the answer for next year. So, but we would be looking at teachers coming back September 2nd and 3rd. Students would then begin Tuesday after Labor Day. We would have kind of the typical religious holidays, state and federal holidays that fall within the calendar. So we would have Columbus Day on October 12th. We would have Thanksgiving. They would do a half day before for our early release staging drill. Certainly the day after will be off. We would have Veterans Day off. Tentatively, we're scheduling parent-teacher conferences in a similar place to where we did them this year. Those could change as we get feedback at the end of the year, but as of now, I wanted to designate those because those do represent some days off for students. And you see those represented, some in November, that's elementary in November, secondary in December. Then we've got the holiday break would run, it's a shorter one in this coming year, so from December 24th through January 1st. We also then have MLK holiday, January 18th, our February week, in which we have President's Day in there as well. That's the week of February 15th. Then you've got parent-teacher conferences and superintendent's conference day again, March 11th, 12th. Spring recess is somewhat early, the week of March 20th. That aligns with Easter and Good Friday. Passover, we have the first night of Passover is a contractual obligation. That's why that's one day in April on a Wednesday. So that aligns with a collective bargaining language. And then, of course, at the end of May, we're maintaining we call them the compensatory days. Those relate to snow days. So if we don't use any, those become vacation days. If we use one snow day, the first one goes back to being an instructional day. If we use 2 snow days, the second goes back to being an instructional day. Important to note, we are already watching the weather for Sunday night.
Yeah.
We may be looking at a weather event on Monday, so stay tuned. If we were, as an example, to have a snow day on Monday, then this year we would lose that first day before the break. So don't make plans yet for Memorial Day. And then for this year's Memorial Day. In June, Juneteenth falls on the weekend, but it's to be celebrated the Friday before when it falls on Saturday, so the 18th would be off. And then you see the last 3 days, what we've done this last year and planning for this year. If we don't use the remaining snow days, those could be given back to our elementary families as reduced school days. If they are in session, those would be half days. I was going to comment on something specific. It's gone. We do currently have graduation listed. I mentioned this last time as the 26th of June. Just because the calendar was a little bit earlier, we did place it there. The Regents calendar has come out now, and I believe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, June 15, 16, 17 are exams. So some of this will depend, it's kind of tight to get in exams, prom, all the things to get to graduation. And as we said last time, Saturday the 19th is Juneteenth. Those are some things that we're taking into consideration. We will be looking for feedback on whether to keep graduation on the 26th, consider it the 19th. So that will be part of the survey that's sent out to folks. So the plan is, as part of our wrap-up for after this meeting, is to send the calendar out, send a survey out like we did last year, get some feedback over the next 2 weeks, and then come back to you in February with a finalized recommended calendar. There's not a lot of flexibility in this one. I know folks want to end early and all those things. There just is not. There's not much room to move. The other thing I would add, as I said last time, this is basically based on the BOCES calendar, since we have busing through BOCES and we have students who attend classes at BOCES, both special education and vocational students. So, so that's really where the alignment, in particular related to February and March breaks, came from. So, with that, I'm going to transition over to the podium. Okay, so I always appreciate the opportunity to come mid-year and just provide the board and the community an update on where the great work that's happening in the district. And it's always a nice time, too, to pause and reflect on our progress, celebrate our progress, and then also as we head into the budget season, I think it's important to have taken that opportunity to pause and see what are the areas that we're proud of, that we're moving forward with it, and then any areas that we are keeping our eye on that may need additional support as we move forward. So as the board is very aware, we're in second year of our strategic plan. Personal growth and achievement, belonging and wellness, and sustainable learning environments are the three pillars that around which all of our work has been anchored for throughout this plan. In addition to the strategic plan, of course, we look to the goals that the board sets each year to help direct their work, but it also helps to direct our work as well. So together, the board and the superintendent will support the continued enhancement of student outcomes, as well as deepen community understanding of the value provided by the Pelham Public Schools. I think it's really important to understand that goal, and that is a big piece of tonight's goal for this presentation is to understand all the different ways that we can continue to enhance and deepen the community's understanding of the value that we bring. And what I believe is we have an incredible school district. I'm not as much of a self-promoter salesperson as maybe some other folks are. And I think at times we forget to really celebrate all the incredible things that do go on in our schools every day for our students. And I appreciate the work session that Dr. Comerford planned for us. The board had a real great opportunity to see more deeply the outcomes, and in that to celebrate not just test scores, but really the well-rounded experiences that our students have and how they excel in all those different areas. So we're going to touch just briefly on those again tonight. So areas that we wanted to cover, in addition to the student successes, we also, again, and Jackie kind of teed us up and make us a little bit more efficient by touching on some progress in our capital improvements, as well as start to look at finances. What is our current snapshot of where things stand, which is a very strong position, and at the same time, we know that we're facing, as we look forward, we're facing some headwinds and want to just talk about how we're thinking about those things and be cognizant of those as we move forward. So as Jackie mentioned, with the capital improvements, we're just incredibly thankful to the community for passing $99 million worth of bond projects for us last May. That was incredible. I got to say, when I talk to colleagues, they're floored at the number, but I say that Pelham supports its schools. That's always who Pelham has been. They're invested in our schools. We believe in our schools. Their buildings are 100 years old and they need work, and people understand the value of investing in our schools. So incredibly appreciative for that. And as has been mentioned, we're moving forward with the two main propositions. The first one having to do with core infrastructure at Colonial Prospect Hill and the high school. And then, of course, the second proposition passed was specific to Siwanoy, predominantly bringing our final building into ADA compliance, expansion to right-size the building and make sure that we have adequate space for our programs, for our students at Siwanoy, and to do those same HVAC upgrades that are planned at the other elementary schools. So we've been talking a lot through bond steering. That's been our primary vehicle to be doing this work. And I think what's important to mention is we have really tried to follow through on the promises that we made. And again, Jackie already mentioned one thing, and that's our commitment to communication. So coming into this year, we developed a communications plan around specifically the communication, the capital projects. So what was going to be our cadence of regular communication and staying true to that. So there's regular monthly updates provided at the board meeting and then provided out to the community as a follow-up. Additionally, at key points, we've committed to hard mailings to neighbors. So we've done that a couple times already. To give them invitations to community events, to let them know when things are going on in the neighborhood, which to go back to the opening day of school when we came back, there was no mailing about drilling because we hadn't been notified of drilling, so they were sent away. But when they do come back, there will be those kinds of notifications. So we've continued to do that. Additionally, we committed to expanding involvement. So there's really been two key areas there. Our bond steering committee, again, we reassembled that as we do with all of our committees this year. So we have an incredible group of community residents who have joined that, who have relevant professional experience and a deep commitment to making sure that the district gets the project right. And it's been just an incredibly positive, very thoughtful group coming to that, understanding the needs and the values of the community, as well as how the construction process and design process can support those goals. Additionally, we set up the Site Plan Advisory Committee, which is an opportunity to expand a group to be very thoughtful about the outside space, recognizing the many different audiences who use that space and value it. So we brought in some neighbors, we brought in different formal user groups from the community, as well as the internal staff, with the architects, with the engineers, to be thoughtful about what are the major elements we want there. That was our first discussion. We'll be coming back out once those designs are a little further along and getting a little bit more feedback, thinking about how do we provide spaces that that have sustainability in mind, whether it's types of planting, shade, cooling areas, stormwater management, so some updates there. Also thinking about our students and how do we want to provide spaces that meet the needs of all of our students, so it becomes the most inclusive space possible given what we have to work with. So those are some things that we promised beforehand, and we're implementing those to continue the connection with the community, as well as Jackie said, working with Pelham Manor very closely. Construction timeline, we're going to see that in just a moment. The next big discussion with bond steering and with the site committee is going to be centered around logistics. We know we're designing where we need to be 3 years from now, what the building should look like and what the property should look like. But the next conversation is how are we going to get there and navigate the logistics of that site while also conducting school. How are we going to work those together? So that's some big conversations to come. Looking at our logistics timeline, you can see here what we've talked about, and that's fall and spring of this year being design development and approvals for Colonial and Prospect Hill, design development for Siwanoy School. As we move into the summer, we expect renovations to begin at Colonial and Prospect Hill. The Siwanoy plan should be submitted by the end of the school year. That's a much longer design process, much longer approval process, but that's our anticipated goal there, and we're still on track for meeting that timeline. Winter of 2027, so again, we're talking calendar for 2027. We're now also thinking into design process. That's when design development will begin for the high school renovations. So even though the expansion didn't pass, the infrastructure renovations still did. So windows, masonry, and HVAC systems. Again, we did not build air conditioning in there, but as we move through the elementary plans, we likely will be able to have some resources to reallocate as far as like air conditioning units, things like that, from elementaries to the high school as we begin to complete those projects. And we still hope that there could potentially down the road be some grant funding to offset that cost of maybe a larger air conditioning project at some point in time. And you see there the other elements that are coming forecast. So construction is planned to begin this coming summer, as I said, at Colonial and Prospect Hill. The bulk of that work will be this summer and the following summer. There may be some work during the year that will be staged in a way that is not disruptive to the school. And then you see we stretch out there to 2028. So we do expect at least 3 to 4 years of construction. And again, currently we are on time as planned. And that was strategically staggered around the district to align not only with the funding flow, but also to make sure that we had summer programming opportunities still available in the community. So we didn't want to shut all school sites down at the same time. So transitioning now to student success and academics. This fall, we've had a great chance to dig deeply into student performance and student engagement, looking at all the different ways that our students are engaging, learning, demonstrating that learning, and mastery throughout the year. We've also had the opportunity to look at the New York State Portrait of a Graduate, the New York Inspires initiative that's coming our way. And what I would say is the work of the last several years has really positioned us well for the transition and transformations that are going to come as part of the New York Inspires. So just to touch quickly on the work session that we held back in November, these were some of the three of the big areas that we touched on: New York State assessments, New York State Regents performance, as well as advanced coursework. And I know the board received the full report, and I hope you had a time to digest that as well. Just wanted to highlight some of those things, and just to touch on the dashboard that's become part of our strategic plan, to highlight some of the updates that have been completed there.
The dashboards are on the top. Second, yeah.
Just a reminder of where this is for anyone who wants to find it on the website. You go to the pelhamschools.org website. You go to strategic plan. You go to district and then strategic plan, and on that page you'll find the progress dashboard. Click on that link. It will bring you to this page, and then the indicators is the page that I'm specifically looking for this tonight. A little slow. There we go. So we have the indicators where you can see more of the numerical metrics, and then also there's a strategy tab. I'll just mention those both quickly. So these have been updated. We had some updates done in the beginning year. Some of the demographics were able to be updated. Following Dr. Comerford's presentation on student outcomes, now those tiles have also been updated. So a lot of what you see here, we begin with demographics. You can see students with IEPs, I point that out. That number has traditionally for us been anywhere from 10 to 12 to 13 now. Statewide, nationally, there's been significant increases in percentages there. I think the state percentage is 19, 20% at this point in time. We've seen slight increase, but not as high as state or nationally. We continue to stay at about 1% English language learners. Our economically disadvantaged number has also crept up a little bit, from about 10% when I started, now closer to 13. Not a huge change, but it is significant for a community like ours, and especially when you compare us with peer school districts, those who are performing at the same level of student outcomes. You are dealing with usually much lower free and reduced lunch rate and socioeconomic percentage. So that actually is something that we're very proud of. We meet the needs of a diverse group of students, and we feel we do a very good job of doing that. So moving into some of these other indicators, we see some of the rankings that we've moved into this year. So 426th in the U.S. That's U.S. News and World Report ranking on our high school. Our attendance rate remains high. SAT and ACT numbers remain high. Some of the things that we look to are the outcomes of our system. And when I look at something like this, you can get really in the weeds on some of the reports, which some people love to do. I tend to take the kind of the big picture view. And you've got highlighted in here some of the things I think that are really important to us, and that's how do we prepare students so that by the time they get to high school, they can meaningfully engage in high levels of study, college level study, rigorous study, which demonstrates their preparation. So when I sat back and thought about tonight's presentation, I didn't want to reiterate everything that Dr. Comerford introduced us to. I didn't want to read reports to you, so I thought, what is kind of the story that I see when I look at our data? And when I came to the district 9 years ago, some of the biggest initial gaps that I discovered was we did not have supports for students below third grade, intervention supports, because third grade was the first year of state testing. So that was the year there was mandates around AIS. We didn't have a lot of supports. That was a concern that very quickly came on the radar from the educators to me. We're missing some of these gaps, and potentially you don't want gaps to widen before you can begin to intervene. So over the years since I've been here, that's been an area we've invested. We've invested in intervention at younger levels, so we do have the ability now to provide supports for kindergartners. We've also, at the elementary, we finally committed to bringing some ICT in. So there's another population of students that we were able to better meet their needs at those foundational levels. So we currently have co-teach K1 and 2. We, under the prior strategic plans as well, we basically overhauled the curriculum in ELA, in math, and in science. We've implemented the next generation standards, K-12, in those areas. So we've been doing a lot of work over the last 10 years, starting from the foundation up, which I think is critically important. And then when you look at our state assessment results in both ELA and math at 3 through 8 level, what you see is at least 80% of our students on average and better are proficient in mastery. So what that's telling us is 80% of our students are getting up to grade level. Learning doesn't happen on a linear line, but we're pretty solid that 80% of our students are proficiency in mastery. Then think about the MTSS process. That's something we've been really working hard on. We've got a tri-states visit coming up in 2 weeks. 1 week. I was going to say Claire's probably got the number of hours counted at this point in time but we put a real focus on MTSS because with the MTSS system, 80% of your students should be getting their needs met by good Tier 1 instruction. Research-based, foundational, differentiated in the classroom with the teacher, 80%. And then, beyond that, you've got your 20% that might need Tier 2 or Tier 3. 80% of our students are performing at grade level. And we're investing in the MTSS process to then look at how do we get the rest there. So I think these, to me, are big system pieces. We've got the curriculum. We've put in supports. We've now got a system. How do we meet the needs of those other 20% of the students? And so we're building in all those pieces. And I think what I know the board is seeing and learning in education is nothing happens quickly. But what we're seeing now when you look at our high school outcomes is the result of those efforts that have been put into place over the last 10 years. With this, in addition to the supports, in addition to the focus on MTSS, in addition to improving the curriculum and continuing to provide professional development for teachers, we also have been expanding opportunity at the secondary level by implementing the open enrollment policy, which I know can have some controversy around it, but what we've seen is we're now seeing the results of that. We have more students engaging in higher level, rigorous courses than ever before, and they're maintaining and excelling even higher on those outcomes. So it's working. It's doing what it was supposed to do, which is exposing more students to rigorous courses and seeing them excel at that higher level. So when I look at this page, I see enrollment in dual enrollment courses, 438 students. That's doubled where it was in about 2018. AP scholars and our averages on our AP exams, those numbers have all maintained and are climbing. Offering about 20 AP courses in a given year. One of the most important things on this page that's showing right now that I think 90% of students at our high school took at least one exam last year, one AP exam. 90%. So again, we go from 80% of our students getting them on proficiency and mastery in elementary, continuing to support. Our Regents exams show when you get into middle school, now we're climbing in the maths and sciences into the mid-80s. We get into the humanities, we're climbing into 96% on I think it was the English Regents, 99% on both history Regents exams. It's working. Like everything we've built, the system is working to do what we wanted it to do, which was to move all of our students to a really high level of achievement. So that 90% to me, we know and we believe students having a college level experience in high school is one of the best preparations for success in college, 90% this past year. And I should add, hot off the presses of last week, Pelham Memorial High School not only was noted now for this, for our most recent results as an AP honor roll designated school, we achieved the platinum AP honor roll level. I can't read my notes because they're hidden behind the screen. But there were 3 certain factors that really came down to that, and I can share that with the board. I believe I did share it with the board in my memo. And it had to do with exactly this: the number of students who were accessing, the number of students who were achieving, and the barriers that we're breaking down to make sure that those things happen. So we're incredibly proud of that. We're going to be doing some PR around that, because again, this is showing that what we've been doing strategically over years is working. And we're now, this is part of why we've been our U.S. World and News Report rankings shot up. It's because of these college level opportunities for our students. So these are all things to be proud of. Regeneron Science Talent Search, that's another thing, you see here that we've had, when you click on the link, you see we've had, I think it was 7 students over the last 8 or 9 years. We've got another one. We're going to be honoring Emily Walsh in the next, one of the next couple of board meetings coming up, because this year we had another student. Emily was identified for the Regeneron Science Talent Search. So we continue to produce just incredible results. Our students are amazing. The programs provide the support. The faculty are incredible, and their commitment really helps to foster all these incredible outcomes for our students. So do take the time to read through those things. Just continue our athletics, and we covered this at the board work session. The number of sports that we provide to our students, we've grown our athletics program probably 30% over my time in the district, which is incredible. And more students enrolled, more programs for them to enroll in, and it's showing. Kids are really involved and engaging, more connected to their schools. Clubs have continued to grow as well. If you want to see that student performance report, it's right here on this tile. There's a little bit of a wonky system, so you have to click on the eye in the corner. Then it gives you this little screen. This student performance report is actually a hyperlink, even though it's not underlined, and that brings you to it. So those, I think, are just some of the really important highlights that I wanted to share with you. I'm going to go back to my presentation. Sorry. I clicked off the dashboard. So we have a lot to be proud of. Here's our kids. Here's all the amazing things they do. So it gives us so much opportunity to celebrate them. We've got our National Merit Scholars. We've got our school plays. Don't forget this weekend coming up is it's Something Rotten, middle school play. It's a hilarious play. The things that our students get to perform in just bring out so much talent and joy, and continue to be things that we're celebrate on a regular basis. So not going to dwell here much longer, but just so much to be thankful for. And I just use those as reminders to our families that if our child wants to do something, there are incredible opportunities here. That's why folks move here. That's why we're here, is to provide students opportunities, whatever they want to get connected to, especially once you get to the secondary level. There's just a wealth of opportunities to excel, to have enriching opportunities, to find peers that enjoy the same things, to grow together, to challenge yourself, and to make networks and connections that will set them on a really solid path for the future, a path of excellence. So then just transitioning finally to our last section is a financial health and outlook. So how are we going to keep doing this? That's really the question. We have, again, this fall had the opportunity to hear some really solid and positive things about the financial oversight and management of the district. As we've heard this year, we do currently still have a AAA rating from S&P. A lot of work has gone into maintaining that, and that has to do with our use of reserves, with the involvement of our community and the support from the community, and the way that we have approached our fiscal management. So that's something to be proud of, one of only 2 districts in Westchester with a AAA rating. And as we think about borrowing coming up for large bond work, obviously that's something that continues to be important to us. Earlier this fall, we heard a clean audit report from our district auditors from our annual reports. We were pleased and proud of that, and continue to strive to improve our systems so that continues to maintain clean results for them. And we also continue to maintain a strong fiscal stress score. That's something that I don't think the results are out for this year yet. In our most recent, we were in an undesignated category. Our goal is to remain in an undesignated category, but you do over time see more and more school districts and municipalities heading into higher stress areas under the tax cap. That's just a natural mathematical function of things. And again, fiscal oversight of how you think about and what are the levers that you use to maintain stability and financial planning for your program, program moving forward. So we're in a positive fiscal position as we stand today. The board has given us budget guidance for the year. Obviously, those big pieces are continue to goal be to stay within the tax cap, continue to be cognizant about programs, staffing, to do our best to continue to support and put resources where they need to be to support student experience and student program, but to be really, I take it as being pretty conservative about our approach for the year. Let's tighten the belt, let's sharpen the pencil, stay within the tax cap because we are cognizant of the fact that our community did come forward and support big capital projects, and we know that the tax increases are going to be coming on with those new costs in the coming year, so we want to be very sensitive to that. So we definitely are keeping that in mind. And as I said, academic priority for our resources. Make sure that our resources are aligned to our values, our strategic plan, and our priorities. So as we're going in, as we headed into budget planning, which we're in the midst of now, those are the things that we are keeping in the forefront of our mind. How do we make decisions that, if there's difficult decisions to be made, stay as far away from the classroom as possible? So as we said earlier, and we've said it throughout the fall, there definitely are financial headwinds that we are thinking about and that we need to be cognizant of as we go through the planning process. And we thought it's important to, to bring those forward in a transparent way before we head into next month's budget discussions, because those do have an impact on our resources, on our revenues, which then, of course, impact our decisions about expenditures as we put together our budget for the year. So we have seen, and I think the reality, not just for us, but for everybody, is that costs are outpacing revenues. That's kind of the economy that we're in right now, and in a tax cap environment, that the whole point of that was to limit growth of our budgets. So many districts are feeling that. We are not unique in that regard. So the significant cost drivers that we're seeing, and we're going to show you a little bit of data on those, relate specifically around healthcare and benefit growth, transportation cost growth, special education growth. Those seem to be some of the biggest areas of driver on the cost side. And then on the revenue side, we know that, again, the tax cap has been below CPI the last several years. The tax cap, I believe we all at this point know, you can raise your tax levy either 2% or CPI, whichever is lower. So there's been years that it's been lower, and there's been years when it's been close, and you'll see, a relative alignment there because CPI has a lot to do with cost increases, and when they're aligned, that tends to be a more manageable situation. Certainly CPI the last few years has been much higher, but we remain capped at that 2% as a starting point for a tax cap calculation. And I just will note, we do all recognize that the capital costs are an exclusion, so they are outside of that 2%. But the 2% is really where the bulk of our operating costs go. And when you look at these significant cost drivers, those are operating costs. So we're capped at 2% or CPI on the funding to cover the operating costs, which is where we're seeing cost drivers. So to make that point pretty clear. So in revenues, we got CPI, as I said, interest earnings decreasing. We're going to take a quick look at that too. We had some very slim years where it was kind of insignificant, and then we've had some great years. But we're seeing some changes, some downward changes there that were forecasted, but they're really, important to keep an eye on. And of course, stability of state and federal funding, which we'll talk about as well. So just to kind of go a little bit deeper, just give you some visuals. Consumer Price Index at 2%, of course, that's our 2% tax increase, tax levy limit in years where the CPI is above the line. So you can see back in 15, 16, 17, 18, it was CPI was below, so that's where we were capped, but still relatively close to that 2%. And then since the 2021 year shot up significantly, obviously following the pandemic, a lot of uncertainty there. So we've been budgeting within a system where the CPI is significantly increased, costs are significantly increased, yet we've been capped at that lower revenue growth level. So that certainly puts additional pressures on the budget. When we look at interest earnings, as I shared before, some of those years I think we were in the tens of thousands of interest earnings in a given year, and then 2022, 23, again, we shot up to over $1 million and a half estimate. And so we had some really great years, and that really was a lever that was really helpful in overcoming some of the budget pressures that we were now facing as costs continue to increase, programs continue to increase, salaries continue to increase, other areas beyond our control continue to increase. That gave us a lever to help mitigate that on the revenue side. But as you see, the trajectory is changing, and that's something that we're thinking about and something that we're planning for. But it takes away a lever that's been pretty important for us in these last few years. When we look at transportation costs, pretty easy to see the curve there, again, post-pandemic. A lot of reasons for that, but this, again, not unique to us, but you've got a lot of different pressures there. So we're not a busing district, we contract out. So every 5 years or so, we have to go back out for professional services. When you do that, obviously you open yourself up to cost escalations, depending on the current environment. After the pandemic, there was a tremendous amount of driver shortages that all districts were seeing, whether they own their own buses or contracted out. So that's at play. So you got a supply issue that's driving busing costs up. You've got a state mandate to convert to EV buses. Even though we're not having to deal with this, and thank goodness, because my colleagues are going crazy over it, the reality is the bus companies have to too, and they know it. So they're pre-planning by raising their costs to help adjust for the costs that are going to be associated with that transition. So that's impacting bus contracts. Also, as we've expanded program, and some of that is special education and some of that is athletics, that's transportation costs as well. So this is an area where, in order to meet our need, we have to, and the market drives the cost of business. So this is why we're seeing some significant cost increases there, from what used to be hovering around $1 million now to over 2, heading towards 2.5. We don't expect that number to go down. So but that's a number that we've got to factor in as we think about things like our programs in particular. Special education, again, we've made strong commitments. We maintain our commitments. We believe in educating our students to the degree possible here at home. We believe in providing all students a free and appropriate education. We're required to do that. And we also believe in the least restrictive environment. So we've invested in special education. As I said earlier, we've invested in expanding ICT to our elementary schools. That comes at a personnel cost. And that's one that we've supported. The boards have supported, the community has supported, and we're happy to support that. What we've seen, and again, it's everyone in the state, everyone in the country, probably on an international level, I don't know those stats, but post-pandemic, there's been increases in special education, and it's the number of students who are being identified with special needs, as well as the intensity of those needs. So that's where we've seen a significant increase there, is the level of intensity of student need. And that can come in by way of students needing to go out of district, a specialized program beyond what we can provide. It can come by way of, in our case, adding ICT, as well as adding additional special class sections. So again, more staffing. With that also comes related services. So that's increases in OT, PT, speech, all those related services. And again, we meet those needs. Students come with IEPs. We design those through the Committee on Special Education. So these are costs that we as a district willingly and gladly provide to our students, but there's a financial reality to it. So we just want to be transparent about that. So since 2021, we've seen an increase in about $3 million in special education costs. So as we transition into this year's budget, you're going to see some increases there. But we're proud of the programs that we're offering to our kids. We're proud to be able to meet their needs and happy to work with their families. So again, a financial reality that adds some pressure just for us to be aware of. Medical insurance. Any of you who are working in corporate, you're probably seeing these same things. So that's been an upward trajectory. We do have a slight amount of control as to, when we collectively bargain with our units, how much the district pays versus they pay. But that's only a small piece of this puzzle. That's, again, driven by the market. So we've continued to see significant increases. Again, a nearly $3 million increase since 2021 in medical insurance alone. So here we look at employee salaries. Of course, there's going to be natural growth because that's how pay salaries work. But you will see a slightly lower slope here because we do have more control over this. So whereas the other increases in the out years were still on a very steady trajectory up, ours flattens down a little bit more because we've done what we could to negotiate fair contracts, fair to the employees, responsible to our employees who are incredible, who we very much value, and at the same time having to be responsible to the taxpayer. Pelham has never been known to be leading the way on salaries. They've always been in the teaching ranks, kind of a moderate to a little bit more competitive. Administrative salaries have been very moderate, and our support staff very moderate as well. I think from prior boards, and I may have said this in prior meetings, boards over the generations in Pelham have wanted the top decile of performance, bottom decile of spending. So we want a great product, but we want to do it. We want to be efficient in how we use our budgets and how we use our funding. So that does show up in our collective bargaining agreements. So that's just a little bit of context, a little bit of background, some of the pressures that we're thinking about so that you can be thinking about them as well as we head into the budget. I know that especially those on the Finance Committee, well aware of all these pressures because we've been talking about these things throughout this year as we saw them coming. We were thankful yesterday to receive the first state aid runs from the governor's budget that was proposed yesterday. So we were thankful to get fully funded on the foundation aid formula again. So I think it was a 3.64% increase in foundation aid specifically, which is great. That's basically when they run the formula, so to say, districts should get about 3%. So there must have been a little bit of adjustment that gave us a tiny bit more. Overall, though, our state aid for next year is relatively flat to this year because whereas we saw increases in foundation aid, we did see decreases, expected decreases, Jim, I believe in building aid, correct? And some little bit of fluctuations here and there with BOCES and some of the others. But those are really the two big drivers, increase in foundation, decrease in building aid. So overall flat. So again, that's what we're budgeting with. The way that process works, the governor comes out with her budget first, then the legislature comes out with their budgets, they negotiate. Somewhere around April 1st, the budget gets passed, hopefully. Generally, it's been slightly higher as far as state aid. In some years, it's been like, $10,000 higher. In other years, it's been $300,000. Kind of a gamble this year. And I think the other big thing that's not on the list here, but I think it kind of overlays all of this, is we all recognize there's funding uncertainty at the federal level as well. So just watch the news on a daily basis and you can kind of try to track what it is. We really have no idea what that would mean to us. Most likely that would be, if funding were ever cut, it would be from the federal government to the state, and then the state would have to figure out how that then trickles down to school districts. So it's another reason why having strong reserves is critically important when we get into financial uncertain times like we are, and not leaning on them as our temporary short-term strategies from time, yes, but as a long-term strategy, no. So again, all the things that we're thinking about as we prepare a final budget to bring to you. And we anticipate that to be the meeting, I believe it's February 26th, the Wednesday after February break. So with that, I'm going to pause. I'm going to go sit down and happy to have some conversation and got any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Champ. Does anyone have any questions or?
No, I just have a comment
Comments.
to your surprise. You mentioned the special education funding and is a cost that always goes up, and just like something to note about that. That's just an interesting backstory. Is the federal government has not fully funded IDEA in decades, pretty much since 1970, like the 70s, since this big monumental piece of civil rights action was enacted. And then in 1993, when Bush 1 revamped it and made it stronger, it still hasn't been fully funded. But districts are required to provide those services regardless. So because of the civil rights, federal civil rights piece of the bill, IDEA, we are required regardless to provide these services to students, whatever that funding looks like. So we see our special education costs go up. I think it's important to note that we're providing those, we're giving our students the best we can. We have always been supportive of our students here. We can thank past boards for staunchly standing by these students and prioritizing their needs, and our districts has prioritized their needs. So we see these costs going up. Every district across the country is seeing their special education costs go up. That's not specific to Pelham. And so I think we can really be confident that, Pelham will continue to provide these services for our kids regardless of what the funding looks like at the federal level. But there is always, at the federal level, a big advocacy push to remind Congress how important it is to fund this. I mean, I think it's on the agenda every year for lots of national level organizations. It hasn't happened, but it doesn't mean we should stop asking for it. So from the board side, any federal level advocacy always includes a push for a request for this, and our congressmen are aware of that.
Thank you. I agree with everything you just said. Thank you for raising it.
Do we know what department the funding is coming out of now, or like who's administering?
No.
I don't know. Yeah. I was just thinking. I don't know.
It'll flow through
Yeah.
the state. I mean,
It'll go through the state. Yeah.
it comes through the state anyway. They're moving it to so there's been so much movement.
Yeah.
Health and Human Services.
That's what I was
Oh,
thinking.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is concerning only because they don't have experts to really understand like what this funding stream actually supports and the importance of it. So, it could change.
Just one comment on one slide that was there, which is a lot of those graphs that you showed, which I thought were very helpful, showing,
The trajectory.
our sort of costs kind of going up and to the right pretty sort of radically post-pandemic, then juxtaposed to the cost of our labor cost, our employee cost, that was a much more sort of controlled, kind of gradual, consistent growth. And I think sort of one of the comments, some of the commentary you gave on that, which I agree with, is that I think we, the pace at which employees have been remunerated and those pay increases have been controlled and judicious, and we thank all our stakeholders for that. I think there's another element there that makes that line kind of a bit less drastically up and to the right, which is just when you look at our employee costs, it's just natural that through the natural cycle of things, the more senior, higher paid teachers cycle out and get replaced with teachers who are earlier in their career and so get paid less. I just wouldn't want to create the impression that we're just like constantly grinding our employees, and I think we're fair and we're reasonable in the negotiations, but there's also just the natural kind of attrition of more older, more expensive employees for younger, cheaper ones.
Right, and the thing I would add to that as well is we also look at the head count over time, right? And we've seen basically a flat line in terms of administrative head count over time, or
I
maybe
think
like
it was 1 in 10 years.
1 in 10 years, and
Something
then
like that.
right,
Yeah.
and then more like in recent years, more controlled hiring. In particular, last year the district did not hire back some of the retiree positions.
Right.
Yeah, so a tough, which is a tough decision, but something that is necessary to manage costs.
Thank you for the report.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great report.
Yeah.
Thorough.
And I love the dashboard,
I know you do.
Solid dashboard.
because when I first opened up the presentation, I'm like, oh, there's not that many slides here, but then I'm like, oh, she's going to the
Gotta
dashboard.
go- There it is.
Speaks for itself.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move to 4.3, since our student reps aren't here right now. Board of Education committee reports.
You gave
I gave
an
bond steering.
update, yes, on
Yeah.
bond steering.
Yes. There was
Kathy's going to
Safety.
give one on,
advocacy.
Advocacy.
Do you
And
want to talk
safety.
about safety?
On safety,
Okay,
Okay.
right before the break.
all right,
come back to Kathy.
okay.
Yeah, we can come back to Catherine.
Yeah,
We can
so
start
let's
these
move
as
to
we-
4.4, the Assistant Superintendent's update on personal growth and achievement.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So across the district, students and staff continue to demonstrate strong academic engagement and achievement. This month, our elementary schools are celebrating literacy by preparing for the district spelling bee, which will take place on Thursday, January 29th, and each of the schools has their own spelling bees in preparation for that and send forth the most successful students to the district bee. As Dr. Champ mentioned, we're very proud of Emily Walsh. She's earned the national recognition as a scholar and semifinalist in the Regeneron Science Talent Search for her original scientific research. This week, middle school and high school students are taking midterms and Regents exams, important mid-year checkpoint. This allows teachers and students to assess progress, reflect on learning, and then use results to inform instruction for the remainder of the school year. Something to note that the week of February 2nd through 6th, the middle school and the elementary schools will be engaging in computer-based or CBT simulation testing. This is required by the New York State Education Department. These simulations are not assessments of student performance. Instead, they are a readiness measure to ensure that our technology system, staff, and students are prepared for the statewide computer-based exams that will take place in grades 3 through 8 in the spring. Hopefully, this will also allow the state to test its own system. As you might recall, last school year, we had 2 start and failed attempts because their systems crashed on two of the beginning days for the ELA state assessment last year. So hopefully this will be a great test for everybody, but again, this is non-evaluative in any way, shape, or form for students. For us in the state, maybe. Next week, on January 28th, from 6 to 7 p.m., we'll host our Science Research Symposium. This event is great. It provides our science research students with an authentic opportunity to share their work and practice their presentation skills with members of our school community. It's a wonderful night showcasing the amazing work of our science research program. And then finally, next week, starting on Wednesday, January 28th, Thursday, January 29th, and Friday, January 30th, we will be hosting a team of educators from districts throughout the tri-state area. There are 20 visitors coming to our district who will be engaging in a in-depth study of our multi-tiered system of supports for students, which we asked them to come to match our school focus for the year, which is systems of supports for all students. It's also a very significant part of our 5-year strategic plan, in which we are in year 2 of. So we are excited to welcome these 12 visitors to our district, and we are opening our digital books to them and also engaging in meetings to discuss this, and at the end they will provide us with feedback and also a full report, which will help us determine what we're doing really well, which I know there's a lot of, and also it will help us identify areas in which we need to put a little more focus and help us plan for next steps.
Thank you. Next, we have Assistant Superintendent's update on belonging and wellness.
Thank you. So this year, again, trying to be responsive to meeting student needs and an ever-changing landscape, and also community needs. One of the agencies that we work with, Student Assistance Services, we work closely to look at that model and see if we can get creative to get more out of our work with them. Student Assistance Services provides the drug and alcohol education to our students in the middle school and high school. So we met with their director, Ellen Morehouse, over the summer and tried to get creative, and again was sharing some of our needs are in the community. One of the things that we're finding on the mental health side is that we do have families and students who are in need of mental health support and services but are on severe wait lists on many agencies that are out there. So what we did was we partnered with Student Assistance to look at our current model with them. So we decided we were going to maintain the drug and alcohol education piece 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days a week, we embarked on a journey with them to apply to the Office of Mental Health and with the New York State Education Department to open an in-house mental health treatment clinic. This is a progressive model that many school districts are moving towards, where you're really moving community-based resources in-house. The exciting thing about this model is that it's open solely to Pelham students. You must be a resident of Pelham to access the mental health treatment clinic, so we all get first dibs. Sean, Lynn, Maria, Jean, and Mr. Farrell and I met with the team last week. They're very eager to launch the program. We just got our approval from the state last week, from Office of Mental Health. So again, this will serve only students in grades 6 through 12 in Pelham Middle School and High School, and it will provide access to therapeutic supports housed right here within our school building. It's important to note the clinic acts as a separate entity, but it's like they're housed with us, and our community, our students, our families get first and only dibs at that service. So right now, our student assistance counselor, Danielle Gamar, is meeting with our clinical in-house staff to determine who's on deck that they've identified that they want to make referrals to right out of the gate. And then I will be working with Alex Wolf on sending a community communication to let parents and families know how they can make referrals and access the clinic. So it's really exciting, and hoping it's going to help our families in the community get the help that they need and not be waiting for supports. So that's exciting. Also, in terms of everything that's going on with MTSS this year, one of our big rocks in relation to our strategic plan. As you're aware, we've been working a lot on the SEL MTSS side of the equation. We know our academic plan has been built out over the last several years with, continuing to make tweaks here and there. And the journey over last year and this year has been working with our BOCES Recovs partners to start the work for the SEL side of our MTSS work. Again, we feel very strongly about this work. I think Dr. Champ's presentation shows what an incredible job Pelham does to support our students in a variety of ways. And we want to make sure that we continue to support them holistically. So we know that the research tells us that strong SEL programs have long-term benefits in terms of academic outcomes for students, contribute to a lot of factors, that cultivating factors and protective factors that lead to student well-being, safety, and belonging. And we know that that we want to make sure that any thing that we do in the realm of SEL promotes the human skills that we're looking to develop in our children. That's coping skills, resiliency, communication skills, problem-solving skills. And to tie this all together, this is part of Portrait of a Graduate as well. It's part of the 6 attributes that we know the state is moving towards in terms of Portrait of a Graduate. So all of the work really works together very cohesively and nicely, and the fact that we're sort of all rowing in the same direction. Last Monday on January 12th, I did share an update with the Administrative Cabinet about the work we've been doing with the MTSS SEL committee thus far. So they were brought up to speed as to where we are and where we are heading in terms of an identified curriculum. In addition, the next day, the MTSS SEL committee met. And again, we invited the vendor that we had identified as the top candidate through the committee's review process to provide a more comprehensive presentation of their curriculum. This vendor was selected after the committee compared several curricula and used a evaluation rubric with the program that we are considering emerging as the strongest overall option. So the next steps we'll have in terms of that is we need to bring together the sort of the contractual teacher team committee to present this to them. Then we will be working on piloting the curriculum, and then meeting again in sort of a culmination of is this the right fit? So we're going through a lot of iterative steps before we make any decisions on an SEL curriculum to make sure it makes sense for the students, the teachers, and the staff, and the community for Pelham. And just lastly, quickly, again, just a reminder, next month we have grade 10 college night coming up, and we also do have the transition disabilities to college night coming up as well. So we look forward to seeing many of our parents there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we'll do Executive Director's update on human resources and leadership.
Good evening, everyone. As you'll see later in the agenda, especially under the superintendent's personnel recommendations, a couple of celebrations that I'd like to highlight. The first is twice a year, teachers can reclassify, which means they take some outside workshops or graduate coursework that they apply and can have a salary classification. So we would like to celebrate Christina Sacco because she has done an amazing job of going outside and learning more that she brings back into the classroom to benefit our students and our staff. So thank you to Christina for being one of our lifelong learners. Also, you will see that Carrie Titone, our high school assistant principal, is being granted tenure. And so we're really excited for her. She's been doing an amazing job at the high school. She will also be going out on leave shortly. And so we're also recommending her leave replacement tonight, Mr. John Colasar. So it's a very busy time at the high school. Mr. Colasar is a retired administrator who comes to us with 22 years of administrative experience. He's been everything from an elementary principal to an assistant principal at the high school to a director of HR. So he really has seen everything K through 12, and he's excited to come to Pelham. He is retired but a little antsy, so he's excited to get back with kids and students and learn it being part of the whole learning process. He and Dr. Titone will have a few transition days prior to her leave, so that'll be a really quick learning experience for him, and I know Mr. Llewellyn is looking forward to him joining the team. Last week, our APPR task force met for the second time. If you remember, Governor Hochul signed ed law that changed our evaluation process, basically, and so districts have to have a new evaluation process in place by 2032, which seems like a very far off time frame, but it will be here before you know it. But also, Pelham really wants to be on the cutting edge of designing something and implementing it sooner than that. And so our task force has really been learning about what the guidelines are, what the requirements are coming down from the state, what it can look like for Pelham. And so our newest opportunity is to really design a needs assessment survey for our staff to get a sense of what benefits our staff would see in terms of professional growth and where do they see their career and their professionalism growing even further, and what protocols and what guardrails can we put in place to help them with that. And so the task force is now working on their needs assessment survey. Our next meeting is in March with the hopes that we'll have the data from the survey so we can start moving a little bit faster. So I'm really thankful to this team of educators. There are teachers and administrators who are really sinking their teeth into something that could be quite dense to wade through to figure out what is going to be the best fit for Pelham, because we all recognize that to be educators, we are lifelong learners, but to do that, we want to be supported and even be a little risky and try new things. And how do we do that in a supportive way? And then the last thing I will say is our Cy-Winoy principal search. The posting closed today. We currently have 53 candidates, so we will be screening the potential candidates in the next couple of weeks. We'll be forming our committees, so communications will be going out to the community as well as to staff to recruit members for our committees, and then we'll work through that process and hopefully have a candidate for you in early March. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Assistant Superintendent's update on facilities and sustainable learning environment.
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Just want to take a minute and thank our folks who came in on Monday and did some storm cleanup. It was one of those long storms over the 2 days, and we're grateful that they came and did that. And we are closely watching the weather with this upcoming weekend, so we'll see what happens there as well. Also, it's been very cold, as we know, and that's something else we're watching very carefully with our buildings. It's especially supposed to get very cold over this weekend, and working with the facilities director, making sure we keep our buildings heated, and we want to prevent any of those freeze-ups. And that's just good advice for anybody out there who doesn't want to deal with a broken pipe. You usually notice it when it thaws out again. Everything stays nice and dry, but once you get the thaw is when, unfortunately, you find out if something held or didn't hold. We had a great bond steering meeting last week. I think generally it was a good update on where we are on our timeline and our projects. As mentioned earlier, we discussed the upcoming work at Colonial and Prospect Hill for this summer. We also spent a considerable amount of time talking about Siwanoy School, the method of construction, whether the district was going to choose to move forward in a stick-build method of construction or a modular form of construction, and we're going to work closely. We're going to work closely with our bond steering committee, try to see if they can provide a consensus to the board, and then in some time, probably in a month to 6 weeks, we're going to be moving forward to the board, and we'll be looking for direction from the board on that too. And some of the things that we're looking at as we compare the two, we want to make sure we're looking at equal quality. So we don't want to give up anything in one type of construction versus the other. We're looking for a lower impact. If certainly this construction project, we don't want to give the impression that there's going to be no impact if we have a modular construction. There's still going to be considerable impact. You're going to have to put in a foundation. There's probably going to be some rock breaking. We don't know how much, but there's going to be rock on the site. We know that. You're going to have to put up the brick walls, the facing, and everything else. So there will be certainly an impact. But if this is one way that we can mitigate that, I think that's one of those things that we are looking at. But again, we don't want to sacrifice quality. We want to look at lowering impact. We don't want to drive additional costs. So as we're looking at these things, these are the types of things that we're talking about in our committee, and as we move forward, that's kind of how we're going to do it. And we want to look at an efficient process. So just kind of sharing with the board what the committee's talked about. The board members that have been there have heard these things, and it's just I think it's a good thing to share out there. Last week we had a meeting with the town of Pelham Recreation. It's kind of like a Christmas story. We talk about recreation past, present, and future. So we've got a great relationship with the folks at town of Pelham Recreation. Again, we talked about what happened in the fall. How did it work out with scheduling the fields? Now we're in our inside season. We hear the baskets going downstairs. That's probably them right now. And then as we look forward towards the spring season, and also there's some summer planning going on with the little kids camp. Not surprisingly, this goes back to our summer planning for construction. Prospect Hill and Colonial will be unavailable for the younger kids programs, the younger student programs for recreation. So we want to make sure there are other buildings available. That would be Siwanoy and Hutchinson School for the younger students. So it's helpful for them to get that message out there. It helps them with planning. And again, it's just part of all of us working together. We've looked at the updated forecast for this year. Again, as we updated the board last time, we expected just about $1 million drawdown in fund balance as we looked at the year. We're not over budget. We balanced the budget with $4.4 million in fund balance. As we looked at it just before the holidays, we looked at about $1 million of a drawdown. Right now, we're at about 1.3 million, but there's a little bit of an asterisk when you put that there, because if you recall, we had about a little bit more than a $400,000 tax certiorari, which we had separately. Mm-hmm. That includes that number.
I see.
So if you back the 400,000 off of the 1.3, the new number of 1.3, you're looking at about 900,000, kind of an apples to apples comparative year to year. So a modest improvement from where we were from our November to our December forecast. As we work through the budget season, we keep updating that, and we look at where we are, and we keep sharing that with the Finance Committee and the board. I'll take my glasses off now, I can't see. We're working on budget, as Dr. Champ talked about, all those different issues that we're working through. The governor gave the budget proposal We've got some really good intel this year from our BOCES group, Questar BOCES. They had the prediction of what the governor was going to submit forward to the legislatures, to the dollar. First time they've ever given a number, and it worked. So again, there's a little anxiety on our part because we're working on a budget, but we still kind of have a big number that we're guesstimating at a certain point. So it's good to hear yesterday, obviously, that we came in on that target. So again, as we look at adjustments, that's just something where we hit the number. And then lastly, out-of-district transportation. Those advertisements and the notifications are going to be going out at people who have students who, if they seek out-of-district transportation to go to private school for the upcoming 26-27 school year. You can find the applications. They're on the district's websites. We're going to put up a public notice. We'll have some notifications. We reach out to the folks that are current users of out-of-district transportation, and we'll do all those usual outreaches that we have on our forms. We also share the type of transportation. Again, per board policy. First method of transportation is public transportation, and then second method, if public transportation is unavailable, then it is yellow bus transportation. So that's coming up, and I'm just going to remind everybody at the next few meetings when I get a chance. I'm going to wrap it up and say, don't forget about out-of-district transportation applications. April 1st is the deadline.
April 1st. I was actually reminding someone of that just at like an exercise class last week because I'm like, it's coming up. They were talking about private school. I'm like, you cannot miss it.
And if you have a student and you're thinking about more than one school, submit an application for each school.
Yep.
So again, we're obligated, and we follow the law on this. We're obligated to that school, and if you submit applications for either of the schools, we can honor those.
Right.
And that's a state requirement that those are submitted by April 1st.
State
Yes.
requirement for April 1st. State law that the school district is required to transport Pelham students to out-of-district private schools within a 15-mile radius.
Constitution, so it's like
Yeah.
bigger than, it's a state law
bigger
and
than
in the
us.
state constitution.
Yeah.
So
Not in
it's
every
like
state, which is interesting
bigger
too.
than
But
the law.
yeah.
It is
The
a
law of the land.
It is part of, one of the three things the lawmakers are required to have in place for public education students.
And city school districts are not required to follow it either, which is interesting. Rare facts about out-of-district transportation for all of us.
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
before we move on, do you want, it's okay.
They have
Do you
great
wanna get-
timing.
Would you
I'll
give us
step out
an
and then
update?
somebody else can do part of mine.
Yes, we had a advocacy and engagement committee meeting. Natalie is the chair of that committee for us, and we had a really robust meeting on the 16th. One of the many things we talked about, I'm just gonna go in order because Alex has such a thorough recap. But one of the things that we are going to be doing this year, since Pelham has such a strong tradition of civic engagement, and we are known up in Albany by our lawmakers as a community that is not shy to share our values and what is important to us, especially when it comes to our public schools. So since we are also not ones to disappoint, and they are expecting to hear from us, one of the activities that the Advocacy and Community Engagement Committee has been working on is an advocacy letter or voter voice campaign. So we we drafted and finalized what the letter will say, and we are putting together a plan to get that out into the community. We will be asking our community members to send this letter. It will be an email, copy and paste, and send it off to our lawmakers in support of keeping public funds in public schools. So we are talking about foundation aid and tax incentives. So do not support tax incentives and do support foundation aid is what will be the content of that letter, which will be coming your way before the end, I guess February. We want to be sending it out in February, so before the school break, you should be seeing that. We also got updated on the results of the scope survey, which have come in, and so we will be talking about those soon, but we're very excited to have those, and sort of that was very positive results that we have from our community about communications.
Yeah, and I would add, since the committee, Alex has been working to, he and I got to meet with consultant from the company who had done the analysis. So she did a presentation for us. We're working to get her to do a remote presentation for the board.
Great.
We're aiming for probably sometime in February. Actually, it'll be probably the second February meeting, and I'll do the brief budget overview, and then hopefully be able to get her there. I think the board will be really pleased and proud of the results of the efforts that came out of that.
Great.
Can't wait.
Exciting. Well, we also, because we are very thorough, so I'm just going to, we also talked about how to handle misinformation.
Ongoing
And
challenge.
because a big thing that the committee talks about is how to, the flow of communication, both outward and inward from the district to the community and from the community to the district, and what that flow, we brainstorm strategies for navigating community conversations and responding to misinformation, and if we need to come up with some sort of decision tree or something for, what and how to respond and when. And we talked about your round robin budget presentations and how to best represent the budget information, which is complicated and somewhat confusing, especially if you're not one of us, like sitting at the table talking about it for months. So how can we represent that information? And I feel like our community members on this committee provide such valuable insight to us to help us figure out how to talk about these things in an easily digestible format. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, we don't have communications and comments from the public, so do I have a motion to take, let's see, 6.1 to 6.3 as a consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll read through 6.2 and 6.3, which are, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. Which are donations. I definitely need to put my glasses on for this. I'll read the donation. 6.2 is a motion to approve a donation of funds from Pelham Civics for 6 district schools for the 2025-2026 school year. So this is actually not a donation amount, but it's to authorize Dr. Champ to receive donations. Okay, I'll read it.
For field trips.
Yeah, for field trips related to extracurricular and intramural programming. Okay, so thank you to the Pelham Civics for their basically unending support of Pelham students. So thank you for that. And then we have another donation. And this one is from the Pelham Education Foundation, and we thank them. This is, I'll read it, that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Pelham Union Free School District does hereby accept the monetary donation of $20,270 for Grant 2602, Clear Voices, Strong Foundations, FM Systems for Kindergarten Classrooms, and that gratitude be bestowed upon its donor, the Pelham Education Foundation. So thank you very much to the Pelham Education Foundation for all they do for the schools as well. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so all of those motions carry. Okay, we can move to policy. Sid, do you want to talk about the second readings?
Sure. I think the only changes really to any of the policies that we had since the last meeting were the changes that we discussed last meeting related to public comment. And otherwise, I think the second readings, I don't think we had any changes.
Okay. Okay, so if we don't need to talk about those, do we want to talk about the ones with the third readings? And then perhaps we can, are we considering waiving the third reading for the second reading ones?
No,
No.
I would not advocate for that.
Yeah, I think the plan was to have the third reading ones be approved, and the second reading ones, we were going to just have another.
We're gonna
Yeah.
keep for the
wait,
third.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Understood.
And these are available in case people want to read them.
Mm-hmm.
So if people want to go in and become familiar with our policies, again, not many have changed. They're just updates.
Yeah.
And I think just to refresh my memory, the changes that were made on the public comment were, I think, softening some of the language around what can and can't be discussed in the two public comments, and then giving the board president a bit of latitude on,
Correct.
really, on timing, but sort of generally how to manage the public
Yes.
comment section.
Yep.
Yep.
I think that's fair.
Okay. So are we ready to take a motion to approve 7.9 through 7.13?
I think it'd be
7.1?
7.7
Oh, sorry.
Right.
through
Oh, yes, okay,
713.
I'm sorry, yeah. Do I have a motion to approve 7.7 through 7.13?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So,
Excellent.
there's some more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there going to be another, I guess, policy committee meeting before the third reading? Or no, because we're just.
Monday.
Oh, okay, so there'll be time for you guys to discuss it on the third,
This coming Monday?
before bringing it back here to us.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything that we had open to talk about on the second readings. It's really more to give
If-
people a
if
chance
there's
to,
comments.
if
Okay,
Yeah.
people want to comment.
Right.
right. But they could do that and then still have you guys take it back to committee, because it's fine.
Oh, for sure.
If-
Yeah, and I
if
would say,
that's what
yeah, if
people
people
want to
had some feedback they want to provide, they're welcome to email me. They can email, the board,
Mhm.
Sid, any of us.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're happy to take that feedback anytime. Yep. Great, thank you.
Okay. Okay, do I have a motion to take 8.1 through 8.5 as a consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I'll just say congratulations to, you can say it too.
Yep, congratulations to Dr. Titone. We're excited to have her officially permanent part of the Pelham family, and look forward to celebrating her in May.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, so congratulations. Okay, do I have a motion to approve a Schedule D?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's approved. Now, new business. Okay, we can start with, I mentioned in my open that the Village of Pelham next week is having a public hearing with respect to an affordable housing law that they will, I guess, likely pass at a later date. And I wanted to put it out to the board if they had sort of any inclination to make a public comment just about having information about development projects in the village, so that this board and future boards can make decisions related to facilities and budgeting. So just throw it out there.
I think we should absolutely go on the record saying words to the effect that our hope and expectation is, transparency around whatever plans are evolved that may impact enrollment in the district, exactly as you said. So to give us the ability to understand what potential impact there could be on the school district.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
I'm gonna one thing, I want to just officially invite anybody who would like to join me in Albany on the 11th for NYSBA's Advocacy Day or Lobby Day,
February 11th?
February 11th. Dara's already said she
I'll
wants
be
to come.
joining. I'll be
You do
going.
have to, the reason why I'm talking about it now and putting it out here now is because you would have to clear your schedule for the day.
It's the whole day.
It's a whole, well, we have a board meeting on the night of the 11th.
Yes. And I would say
Oh,
for
I
that,
see.
for that board, that is our tenure, it's our full executive
Yeah.
session tenure review. So we do need 4 people here as a
Oh, we all
quorum.
can't go?
We'll be,
No.
Well, I was going to say that
But-
we
but yeah.
we wrap up in Albany around 3 o'clock, 3:30, and
we should
so
be back.
it's a 2.5-hour drive, so we will be back.
Well, I was
Back by
gonna say,
6?
It will be hybrid because our hope was to do it similar to what we did last year. The administrators can remote in from home. So we need a minimum of 4 board members just for a quorum. But
Got it.
everyone else could join from home. So if there were 4
Got it.
of
If
your
there was a
colleagues were
situation where
here
we
and there was
needed
a
to
situation where you
call
got
in from the car.
delayed, you would have the ability to
or we're
remote in.
completely exhausted.
Well,
from
we are
communicating.
in charge of scheduling all of our own meetings.
Perfect.
And then we can choose to join others on their meetings or stay late to, I mean, something, I've mentioned this before, but like something unique about Albany is that once you go through security, you can knock on doors, pop in and say hi. And leave your information and see if they're in their offices. So we are in charge of scheduling our own meetings, and then we, in between times, can pop in and try to talk to as many people who are legislative staffers or lawmakers who are in their office as possible. So we are in control of our day, so we can decide to leave whenever we are done. The day does start early. We ride at 6 a.m. So it's
I agreed to that already.
not wholly, it's not uncivilized,
Anybody
but
want
it
to
is
bring
early.
my kids to school? It's gonna be cold.
So it will be a long day because then we will be back for a board meeting, which is just a coincidence and it's a long one, but we'll be back for a board meeting for the evening. So it would be a long day, but it is interesting. It is exciting. You meet a lot of people, you learn a lot, and you have really great conversations, and it's a chance to really absorb a lot of sort of like processes and interesting information. So it's the official invite. I won't mention it again. So it's out there if anybody wants to join. I'm driving.
Cool.
I'm a good driver, everybody.
So on that day, 3 of us have executive, the bond steering committee in the morning, besides the board meeting at nighttime. So that puts 3 of us out, sorry.
Well, that hopefully will be then almost just short of our quorum.
Yeah.
Right.
So 3 bond steering plus 1.
What day is this again?
February 11th, it's a Wednesday. And we will be back, like we won't, unless traffic
It could be weather too.
or weather. I mean, if it's bad weather, then we probably won't go because it is a long drive, and Albany
Yeah.
is worse weather than here.
Correct. Okay, great.
Quick question, sorry, can we back up on I just had one question on the calendar.
Sure.
I was just doing a quick comparison between this year's calendar and the draft one here. And I actually like this one, the draft. It just, eyeballing it seems, I'm in the camp, I know not everyone agrees with me, which is totally fine. I'm in the camp of the fewer sort of interrupted weeks, the better,
I know,
consistent.
April looks good.
April looks solid. October looks very good. And then I noticed that perhaps one of the reasons was and I don't know if this is intentional, I don't see any PLC early release days on here.
Yes, and thank you for raising that because we have not identified those days yet. It is still our intention to add those.
They add those later.
Yeah,
I see.
so that
Gotcha.
will impact. And one of the challenges, to your point, is it's more effective to have professional learning in the first half of the year as opposed to waiting all year and then teaching people new things, which does present a challenge because more of the holidays are in the first half of the year, to your point. But we will try to spread them out in a way that the best we can tries to maintain some of that consistency. One of the things we also want to do is get a little bit of feedback about the late arrivals versus the early releases. We've got our first one coming up February 9th. That's our first late start date. We used to do them before the pandemic. I don't know, a lot of current elementary parents probably have no recollection or experience with it unless they had older children. We want to get a little farther down the path before adding those. So I'm glad you raised that because I do want to be clear about that when we send this out. It's not, this is the main framework,
Yeah.
but there will still be PLC days added, and there may be adjustments to the conferences. as I
Understood.
mentioned.
Okay. Yeah, just again, eyeballing it, October, February,
Yeah,
April look, in my opinion, nicely uninterrupted.
yes.
So, just to circle back, Jackie, to the topic that you had raised earlier
Yeah, I
about the
didn't know if we
village.
decided. Yeah.
I hadn't realized we were, but it's
we
totally
just
fine.
moved on.
I don't necessarily have a issue with the message of, communication between the village and the district. It wasn't clear to me exactly what they're proposing and whether this in particular has any impact necessarily, but I think it's fine to share the message that we hope that if there's development in the future, that it,
Yeah,
I-
I mean,
that
it's
they'll
not a
talk to us
particular
as-
development, it's just a law that,
Would enable development.
It seems like a
hopefully.
commitment to it, right?
what?
It feels like a
Oh,
sort of
it's a
stated commitment to.
Right.
A commitment to,
But it's
affordable
a,
housing.
it's a law to, I guess, well, not
Well,
a
they've
law, but a
already made that
commitment to, be open for further development. That's the way I interpret it.
yes.
I think
It
we
is
should
an- it
at
is
least
an
learn
development.
some more about what
I
they're
was,
Sure.
planning on doing.
yeah, I think my recommendation is maybe proactively assign, like just sort of make sure that there's an open communication around, like, and maybe we can determine the impact too. Do you know, like, they might not have, they just might not know what directly might impact us as they're developing, as they're going.
Sure.
So I do think, to your point, there's a commitment to doing something, but I don't know what's happening at this point.
The only thing I would add, I'm, to your point, I don't know the details of where they're going on this, but what I would add is the historical piece. I know Jim's gone with me at times to some of these meetings in prior years when they've been considering developments under the prior administration in the village and current administration. They often have invited us in to say,
That's
hey,
great.
this is the development that we're kind of thinking about. Very often.
They'll do a demographic
They have to do a
study.
demographic study, a school impact study, in addition to all the other kinds of impact studies. And they'll often share that with us and walk through it. So that's always been helpful and collaborative in the past. And,
Often.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Look,
Well,
I
I
mean,
know-
it sounds
When
like what
they're-
they're planning on doing is slightly open-ended. We don't really know what it is. So I would rather err on the side of caution and, just put it on the record that we look forward to being, given insight into their plans in a way that's constructive
As they unfold.
as they
yes.
unfold, yeah.
I know when I was on the planning board, we worked with the district to get information about school-age children, and
Yep.
the impact on the schools was definitely a high priority in thinking about these projects. So
Do we have everything on our dashboard?
In what sense?
And our population, like, like in terms of the population with the breakdown of the students, like if we have, 600 in the middle school or,
I don't think we
No.
have it broken down by
Okay.
building. I mean, we certainly could. I know when you go to actually the state ed data, the public state ed data page, it's got all that broken down demographically.
Yeah, because I know last year we did, or, oh my God, it feels like ages ago, we
Yeah.
did the demographic studies.
Yeah,
So in
That's
case
in the
they, right,
dashboard.
if they needed that,
that's right. The
Oh, yeah,
demographic
the
study is
study
there.
actually
right,
on
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying, if they need that, it's
Okay, yes.
easily accessible for them to look and kind
Oh,
of
sure.
get that data and know.
Yeah,
what
and
the
there's,
intent or what
we've
we
always had
expected.
a good intermunicipal sharing.
Right.
So if they needed the demographic study, they'd call Jim or me, and we'd send
Yeah.
it to them.
So that way it's, they
Um,
know what
Even,
we
yeah.
think per
Yeah.
the study is gonna happen in the next
Yeah.
couple of years.
And when they do just as a side comment, when they do developments, the developers pay for these school-age
Impact
student studies, and they look at, like, they go to individual projects that have been built in the past and find out from the district how many school students
Yeah.
live at those addresses. So it's like, it's pretty detailed, and we did a lot of analysis coming out of that.
Yeah, and I have to say, from the developments that have been planned and then come to be, because of that scrutiny, actually, they've been pretty accurate. Where because just to your point, they'll find out how many students they use a lot of comparable comparisons. There's certain formulas that they'll use. People can argue the merit of the different formulas. I'm not an expert on it. I'm not getting into it. But,
Argued our Democrat.
Yeah, okay.
They can be argued.
Right. But that research was required as part of the development anyways, and at least in the developments that we were consulted on and that have actually come to be, the targets are pretty accurate.
That's good.
If anything, they generally overestimate how many students are going
That's
to end up
correct.
there
Yeah, that's correct.
compared to what actually turns out.
Let's keep that
Yes.
up.
Wish them luck.
Okay. Sid, do you want to talk about or Dr. Champ? talk about
The NIMTIC.
The traffic study?
Yeah, sure. I mean, all of the various jurisdictions involved with the Glover pedestrian issue, so both villages, the town, the school district, and Mount Vernon, and the county,
Yeah.
all have
All
been involved.
converge.
Because, of course, we're crossing all those boundaries, except the county covers all of it, I guess. But to get from the high school to Glover, and they worked with a state organization to have a report done on options for improving the pedestrian safety for that trip. And they had sort of a, low, medium, high cost and impact options. And now we're at the point of sort of the jurisdictions need to start thinking about what they want to do and how they're going to get funding for it if they need it, depending on the scope of what they want to do. So I reached out to Jackie and Dr. Champ and offered up to, reach out to the village and try and work on pushing this forward, because all of the changes, I think, are either going to be in the village or in Mount Vernon. So
Yeah.
they're probably going to be leading the charge or not in making something happen. So I'm offering to do that. If other people want to, they're certainly welcome to. So that was it.
And
Awesome. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Yeah, and I would say I think there's they had the different, as Sid said, the different levels. I think the level one stuff was very low-hanging fruit. It was literally like repainting of sidewalks. It's things that seem very doable. So my hope is that we
Traffic calming
could,
mural.
yeah, maybe we have
Yep.
suggested an art contest by
Yeah.
the students. That would be pretty cool to have your artwork painted on the.
I think the most complicated pieces are probably going to be the crosswalks in Mount Vernon and the
Yeah.
traffic light in Mount Vernon, getting it
Yeah.
reset.
The timing change. Yep.
When they looked at like the low cost, medium cost, I mean, does this level of safety measure up to what you get type of a thing? Like, is it comparable? Like the low,
I think that,
easy
yeah,
one
I think
is
some
like-
of the basics, if I remember, I don't remember all the orders, but it was, basic painting, like changing some of the locations of crosswalks. So instead of kids crossing so the biggest one that makes so much sense to me, instead of students crossing over to the library and then walking to Glover,
Yeah.
where they're
You
walking
stay.
across the Hutch exit with the ramps,
Yep.
stay on the other side, stay on this
Like
side
past
of
Memorial Field.
Colonial.
And then cross, I got it,
here,
like-
and then, then cross down at the light, which would be getting the timing of the light at Glover changed. But you could have safer passage there because if it's a light and you're not, it avoids crossing the Hutch. I think that was about level one. Level two, you got more into some increased medians and some barriers, fencing to keep kids on the sidewalk from stepping into the street. So I think it would be more
would be.
safety, higher
Mhm.
level of safety,
Yeah.
higher cost on those kind of road improvements.
Yeah, okay.
The big one, I think, was the figure eight peanut interchange that I don't think anybody understood down at in front of Glover.
Yeah, like
A
a
double
roundabout, a
Oh,
peanut
but
But
shaped
not just a
roundabout.
circle, a
Get it.
double, like a figure eight.
We've been
Yeah.
down there. It's a pretty small area.
Did-
to have
Yeah.
a double circle.
So, and I think they did
Well,
even
it was
in,
like a,
I know.
yeah. They did admit that, if you were going to, I think, go to that level, further traffic
Yeah.
studies would be
Yeah.
needed to, if you're really.
Yeah, it'd
gonna
be a
implement
whole
Did
that.
anyone
When you're
dis-
talking much bigger, significant cost of
Yeah.
Sure.
road improvement.
Did anyone discuss like a red light camera, like the installation of maybe cameras? I know there's one right before you turn into the Target.
Oh.
There's one there. You can see it, like,
Yeah.
it just, trust me, there's one there. So, because
Yeah,
I
they didn't.
know there's none before that, because I've never seen anyone like flash or anyone being caught. So that also could be a deterrent if people, get tickets going there. I know it stopped a lot of people from at Four Corners in the village,
Boston Post Road.
Pelham Manor. There's one there, and every time I drive by slowly at 25, my GPS does tells me red light camera. But it does mention, like, it, you know, it gives you that
Slows
incentive to
people.
know. So I'm assuming if there's one there as well, like, maybe that's an incentive for people not to run that red light that they do off the hutch, because that happens a lot. People just come barreling off the hutch and, or trying to get onto the hutch and they run through the lights. So maybe that's another incentive for someone to discuss with the people that are
They
having
could
the studies.
Offset the costs of the upgrades. by
Like,
doing
Right.
what's
some-
your sense
By
of
all the tickets that
That's right.
the timeline? I know you said it's not really in our control, but just a general, like a.
Yeah,
just
I
curious.
don't really know. I haven't reached out to the village. I don't know, you know, what their perspective is on it or what they're looking to do.
Yeah. And I'd be happy to work with you on that too.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, Sid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, big thank you. That's a,
Thanks.
that's a
We
nail
believe
I haven't
you.
done anything yet.
Well, thank you for volunteering.
Thanks in
today.
advance.
I say, when you see Sid out there with a paint
Sid will start to recruit people, totally.
We really have to thank you then. Okay. We don't, okay,
we're
I'll
done.
take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all.